There are a crazy amount of new rules for 11th edition, and it can be really overwhelming, but I'm here to make it super, super easy for you. I'm going to tell you the 12 things that you have to focus on right now, and then you can get the rest of it freaking later. Guys, I'm Jonathan Arkin from Happy Crumping. I am a top 100 player in Warhammer 40k, and I'm here to make sure that you guys understand all the important things you need to so that you can actually just be super successful in this freaking game and have a total blast. So today, I'm not going to read you every single rule in the game. You've got a lot of those videos out there. I'm going to tell you what you need to know this instant so that you can get playing. I'm going to basically do what I told you guys to do in my previous video. If you didn't see my video on how to learn 11th edition, please check that out. It will serve you so, so well. So I've done my initial read through and I've had my initial conversations about it. So I'm going to tell you my first impressions on the most important things to focus on. Let's jump freaking right into it. This will be short and sweet. And I'm going to tell you guys where to really put your attention so that you can just start maximizing your engagement in the game. The number one change I think people all over need to be focusing on is this concept of no strat stacking. This is really important to understand in your 11th edition 40k, because if you are used to, say, making a charge, using a tank shock, spending a CP, or making a charge, failing the charge, spending CP to re-roll the charge, and then tank shocking, it no longer works. You cannot strat stack, which really means that you're probably going to actually end up having more CP than you're used to because you're not going to be able to dump them all into the same activations. You can never spend more than one stratagem on a unit in any given phase. The other rules for your strats are still the same. You can't use the same strat multiple times a phase, things like that. There may be enhancements and stuff that can give you or unit special abilities that can supersede this rule later on as we get deeper into 11th, but for right now you cannot stack strats, and that will dramatically change the way that you play Warhammer 40,000. So just be aware of that, just in case you're a orc player or you're playing the new armored spear tip for Space Marines, and your vehicle blows up and you really want to make a move after it blows up using your stratagem. Well, if you had pop smoke on that vehicle first, it won't work because you cannot use more than one strat in the same phase. So it's actually a very, very big deal for people to be aware of. Okay, the number two thing that I want everyone to be aware of is no more wholly within for line of sight. This is a very big deal. Like here, let me see if I can pull it up on here so I can show you guys visibility. So you do not have to be wholly within terrain to be able to see through it. Oh, whatever. I'll just tell you. I can't find it where it is. You don't have to be wholly within terrain to see through it. Previously, in 10th edition, every single bit of your model had to be within terrain if you wanted to be able to see through it to see your opponents. No longer the case. Now you simply need to be within it. Think of it this way. Effectively, every model has the old school towering keyword from 10th edition. Just think of it that way. You only have to be within terrain to be able to see through it. You do not have to be wholly within terrain. That is a very, very big deal. It makes it much easier to stage your shooting units and then move them into position to see through terrain. So just be aware of that. Now, the number three thing I want everyone to understand is there's some differences to the movement phase. Now, I'm going to have an entire video dedicated specifically to the movement phase, so I'll get more in depth there. But for right now, just be aware that the fly keyword is one of the big changes. Now, in 11th edition, you no longer have to do that silly like diagonal stuff that we used to have to pre-measure, right? Now it's simply, here, let me see if I can actually just pull this up. Now it's, oh, actually this is much better. Now you just subtract 2 inches from your movement characteristic when you choose the ability Take to the Skies. This is something any unit with fly can do. When they choose to take to the skies, they can ignore terrain effectively, and they just subtract 2 from their movement phase, so they can effectively move through terrain. This is really, really, really big for things like land speeders, storm speeders, a lot of your Eldar vehicles. This is huge for Tau vehicles. This is really, really big for Custodes jet bikes because now they can effectively just move straight through terrain. So that is a really, really big deal. Now, some people are already making this mistake. If you are a jump pack infantry unit, you do not have, and you have the fly keyword, well, you're also an infantry unit, so you don't have to use the ability to take to the skies. So no, you don't have to subtract 2 inches from your movement to move through walls. So jump pack infantry will still be able to move their normal distance, which is typically going to be 12 inches. You do not have to take -2 to move through terrain. I already hear people saying that, so I just want to nip that one in the bud for you. All right. In addition to that, you've got things where like your monsters and vehicles can now move through your enemy's models. That's a really big deal. The super heavy walker keyword, meaning like the thing that allows Imperial Knights to walk through walls and just take a battle shock on a roll of one, that now applies to all super heavy walkers in the game, not just Imperial Knights. So there are a lot of things in the movement phase that I want you guys to pay attention to. Number 4 that I really guys want you to focus on, and we're a third of the way done now. Order for saves. Who takes damage? So in 11th edition, the hard and fast rule is fast dice rolling. So effectively what's going to happen, when your opponent is shooting your unit, they're going to make their first round of attacks with whichever weapon that they want to start with. At that point, when it's time to start making the saves on those attacks, you will declare the order that you want to take your save rolls on. So let's say I have a unit of assault terminators, and I've got 3 of them with storm shields, and I have 3 of them, and I have 2 of them with lightning claws. So 2 guys with 3 wounds and 3 guys with 4 wounds. So they're all 2 up armor save. They're all T5. But that's the main difference, is the 4 wounds versus the 3 wounds. And my opponent is shooting me with a Forge Fiend. I don't have to declare which model is going to be taking the saves. I can just see the Forge Fiend. He can roll his attacks. He can make all of his wound rolls. After he's made all of his wound rolls and I see how many times I'm wounded, I can then declare which units will start taking those roll saves. So, for example, let's say the Forge Fiend shoots me and he wounds me exactly 3 times. I can declare, hey, I'm going to take these saves only on the 4 wound models, because at that point I would know I could at maximum lose 1 model, right? Because Forge Fiend would have flat damage 3. I would then roll all of my saves all at once, and the first fails would all go onto my Storm Shield guys. That's how you do it. At that point, if the same unit was attacking, then they would continue making all of their attacks at you, and you would have to keep the same order for the rest of the unit's activations. Now, I know this is clear as mud, so I'm going to do a video specifically showing, like, detailing all of this, but and I'm going to break it down really, really clearly for you guys. But for right now, that is the way it works. So if you need to rehear that explanation, just click rewind. The next thing I want everyone thinking about is the fight phase activations. This is a huge difference in 11th edition from 10th edition. So in 10th edition, what we are used to is the fights first and the fights normal phase will start with the inactive player. So if it's my turn, I'm playing Blood Angels and you're playing the Orcs, and I charge you, and you happen to have a fights first unit, you would fight first. No longer the case. Now, in 11th edition, the fights first keyword effectively has the same ability, but we start with the active player. So if I'm charging you and my unit gains the fight first ability because I charge you, and you also have the fights first ability, I will still fight first. So gone are the days where Howling Banshees are unchargeable. That doesn't mean fight first is useless. My goodness, I've already got building a lot of stuff with how powerful fights first is, but it's just a little bit different. It's no longer going to be as defensive. It's more of an offensive tool now. Okay. Next, we have core strats, and this is going to be basically an entirely separate video, but your core stratagems have changed a ton. Like, I mean a absolute ton has the core stratagems changed. Like just to give you guys an example, Tank Shock is now called Crushing Impact, and you can actually cause damage to yourself when you do it. So you can kill yourself on your own Tank Shocks, which is pretty brutal. Freaking Heroic Intervention is massively changed, and it's going to alter the way the game is played fundamentally. So make sure you pay attention to the core stratagems. They're really, really different. Now, the next thing is back to the pylons and the charge phases. There are no more any base-to-base requirements. So when you complete a charge move, you do not have to end base-to-base with your enemy models. Pardon me, I just got too excited and punched the microphone there. So now all you have to do is you have to end your pylon or your consolidation or your charge closer to the enemy model and in engagement range, right? But you don't have to end it base to base. So for my combat armies fellows out there, you can easily be stealing an additional 9 inches of movement from your charges and your pylons and your consolidations, because you no longer have to work on these base-to-base requirements. It's a very big deal. And hand in hand with that is the new engagement range. Engagement range is no longer 1 inch of the enemy or base-to-base with a model that's base-to-base. Gosh, that was a mouthful. It is now just 2 inches. You have to be within 2 inches of your enemy to fight them in melee. The next big change is cover. Cover does not give armor saves. It doesn't give you bonus armor when your opponent's shooting you anymore. Instead, now, if you have cover or the benefit of cover, what will occur is that your opponent will have -1 to their ballistic skill. And that matters tremendously. Um, like tremendously. I I'm gonna have a hard time really like explaining just how big a deal that is. It's gonna change everything in the entire game. Okay, so suddenly your Space Marines that are supposed to be hitting you on threes are hitting you on fours, and if you happen to have a -1 to hit modifier on top of that, Inner Circle Companions, hello, then or Vanguard if you're playing freaking Space Marines. So Raven Guard are looking spicy right now. Then you can get your opponent an effectively -2 to be hit. So a ballistic skill of 3 up, shooting at someone who is in cover. Now their ballistic skill counts as a 4. If you have an additional -1 to hit modifier, now they will be hitting you on 5s because the ballistic skill is 4 and -1 to hit makes them hit on a 5. So cover is a really big deal. And the way you get cover is pretty dang simple. I'll just read it to you because I got it pulled up right here. Each time a ranged attack targets a unit, if every model in that unit meets one or more of the following conditions, that unit has the benefit of cover against that attack. The model has the infantry, beast, or swarm keyword and is within terrain area. Please note it says within, it doesn't say wholly within. That model is not fully visible to the attacking model due to one or more intervening terrain obstacles. And then they've got just really good detailed graphs here so that you guys can look through these to your heart content. It's actually really well designed. As a matter of fact, Games Workshop wrote fantastic rules. These rules are exceptionally well done. I think I found like one small little like ambiguous error in it, but oh my gosh, it's such a huge upgrade from 10th edition. It's like, congratulations, GW, you guys really nailed it here. So like, for example, this Sisters of Battle Rhino right here will in fact have cover against this unit of, I don't know, I think those are Tau Pathfinders or something, because not every model can see it. So these graphs are great, so make sure you take these graphs and figure out how cover is really going to work. Now, the next thing we need to know, there's only 4 more, so bear with me here. We'll be maybe 3 minutes left. Modifiers have changed. The way it used to work in 10th edition is that we did all division modifiers, then all multiplication modifiers, then all addition, and then all subtraction. This is why if you were, say, shooting a Satan with a meltagun, then the Satan, and you rolled like a 6 for damage, the Satan's ability to have damage would make that meltagun go from 6 damage to 3 damage. But then you would still add the 2 damage for the melter range because additive modifiers would happen after division modifiers. No longer. That doesn't happen in 11th edition. That's gone. Now the order is multiplication, addition, division, and then subtraction. So it really makes those units that are like half damage or -1 damage significantly more durable in the new edition of 11th of 40k than they were back in 10th. So make sure you learn the new order for all of your modifiers. It's a very big deal. Then you got to learn hidden. Hidden is a incredibly new rule, and it goes hand in hand with cover a lot of times. So hidden only really works if you are in cover that has the dense keyword, dense terrain keyword. Now, make sure you read all of your terrain keywords. It's going to make a dramatic difference in how you play this game. But if you are hidden, you effectively get a lone operative 15. And there's terminology in here called the detection range and stuff like that. When I go through like terrain rules in detail, I'll go much more in detail for this. But for right now, if the terrain feature you're in has dense terrain, then you know that you will have 15-inch lone up unless there are modifiers to that ability. Big deal for how 11th edition is going to be playing. Hint, hint, it means Terminators are going to be really good in this edition. I got a lot to say about Terminators. We'll do that later. There's 2 more I want to talk about today that I really want people focusing on, and then the rest of the changes, which there are many, you can really focus on those later. If you get these right, you'll be playing 11th edition effectively correctly. The next one is transports. Transports have a couple important details here. Now, one big deal about your transports is deadly demise happens after the emergency disembark, which means the units that disembark from the transports will get hit by the explosion if they happen to explode. Another really big deal about your transports is that if you do an emergency disembark, say the transport was just destroyed, your units have to set up as close as possible to the transport. And this only is in an emergency disembark, so you do not have to do this in normal disembarks. But in an emergency disembark, what this means is it's going to be really hard to hide the models that are disembarking from the transport that was just blown up. And then when they do take their their mortal wounds, it'll be on 1s and 2s. So that is a very, very big deal because you have to make hazard rolls for the guys who fall out, which is another one. Hazard is now failed on a 1 or 2, but it's only 1 mortal wound instead of the 3 mortal wound that was previously. And I guess this is a bonus one because I'm just gonna explain it now. So everything that has the hazardous keyword, and they say hazardous is the keyword that you get when you do an emergency disembark. You fail your hazardous rolls on a 1 or 2, and you take 1 mortal wound, unless you're a vehicle or a monster, in which case you just take 3 mortal wounds. Hazardous rolls also only apply to the unit, not to the individual models. So characters that have the hazardous keyword, congratulations. If you hazardous, you don't blow yourself up. You just kill a random model in your unit. Works much easier now. So hazardous has become much more forgiving for people. Then there is one more thing I want to talk about today, and then I'll let you guys be on your merry. No more infiltrating and scouting. If you are infiltrating, you don't scout because you can only use the scout keyword if you start in your deployment zone. So Space Marine scouts, pouring out for your homies. The weakest Space Marines are probably no longer the greatest Space Marines on the battlefield. If you're playing against Space Marines, you're probably really happy to hear this, but that is just the way the cookie crumbles. So guys, these are the 12 rules that I really want you all to be focusing on. I'm going to read them to you one more time. Strat stacking. No more wholly within for loan up. It's just within, or for line of sight, it's just within. Movement things, fly especially, make sure you hammer those. The way you order your save rolls, read that a few times, and I'm going to do dedicated videos to that one because that can sound a little confusing, I understand. Make sure you learn your new fight phase activations, always starting with the active player now, not the inactive player. Core stratagems are really different, so you got to go read them. So for example, grenades, you can fall back and throw grenades now. Still can't advance into them, but these things have changed. There are no more base-to-base requirements for charging, pylons, and consolidations. Big deal. Cover is very different. The way that we do modifiers, you're hidden 15 when you're within dense terrain. Remember, read your terrain rules. Transports, and then the fact that you cannot combine infiltrate and scout. These are the things I think that everyone needs to focus on. When you get these down, you'll be able to play like 80% of 11th edition. Then we start hammering the rest of the rules. So this is just going to get you started. I know you guys have probably listened to a dozen rules reviews. Hopefully this is good for that. I can just give you guys somewhere to put your attention to really focus on these specific things. And with that, I'm going to go and pass off, and I'm going to get some real good stuff for you guys coming up real quick. And make sure you tune in on Friday night. We're going to do a live stream where we're going to be doing some live 11th edition gaming for you guys so that you can see how it's really functioning. All right, until next time, crump on. Bye-bye.